Hello, traders and investors. It's Will back here with another one. Well. Big red day here today for the markets, mostly led by our technology stocks. Is this the end of the infamous tech rally or just a healthy pullback? Well, we're going to look into a lot of names today and get to the bottom of exactly what happened today and if it is a healthy pullback or if there's potential more downside here in store for tech, as potentially ETFs rotate out of tech profits into more undervalued names. Now, let's get into it right away, guys. So as you can see, SPY down here with a minus 0.66% day, not too bad, but our QQQ, an absolutely terrible day here, 2.31%. You would have to go back to December to find a day of QQQ putting in a minus 2% day. So definitely one of our largest days here of drawdown on the year on big tech. Now, if we take a look at the heat map, guys, you can see this expressed very clearly on the screen, right? So all of your major tech and semiconductors down multiple percentage points, right? So most of our big tech names here taking an absolute beating with Tesla and Netflix earnings yesterday, obviously taking the cake for the most drawdown here. Tesla, the last time they had such a negative day was last earnings, right? So with that being said, the rest of the market, however, was quite healthy as a matter of fact. So healthcare with a big outperform today. And I've been saying this for a while, guys, that healthcare has been muted and was positioned well. If ever tech was to have a large pullback and take some steam off, that healthcare was positioned very well to make up for some of those losses and keep SPY afloat. So that's exactly what happened today. If we take a look on the one-day relative here, you'll see that most of our tech here complete destruction, right? Consumer cyclical, technology and services. Well, consumer communication services here, Google and Meta, cyclical led by Amazon and Tesla, and your technology, right? Semiconductors, Microsoft and Apple, making up for most of your losses in those groups. But we did have some positive sectors here on the week, right? So it was a fairly mixed market. However, these companies obviously represent a larger weight, so the rest of the market was not able to make up for their lack of performance, right? Semiconductors getting hit a bit here by TSM earnings, right? Taiwan Semiconductors earnings not performing too well. If we go to my list here, which is mostly tech and growth names, you will see that no tech name was spared today, right? So some massive drawdowns, 8, 7, 9%, right? 6, 5%. It's been a very long time that tech has had such a bad day in terms of percentage declines. So very notable to me. And that was largely sparked here by Tesla and Netflix earnings. But if I do say so myself, guys, we have a lot of cushion to work with. So what are we looking for here on the indexes here, right? So after such a nice increase, it was bound to have a little bit of ray trace and daily consolidation. So daily consolidation is definitely underway at this point. Anything above 438, as I've been saying here, is just a daily higher low on SPY. Great performance by financials and healthcare today to make up for some of the technology losses. So still a ton of space, guys, that the bulls have to work with to set a higher low and keep this daily uptrend alive. It's also normal that we're running into a bit of resistance here. As you can see, guys, we've been calling this zone 450 to 460 is the area of rejection that we're looking for. And we do seem to be encountering that resistance now. So bears coming in with a healthy day of downside today. But in the grand scheme of things, we are still just looking for a daily higher low. And if the bulls are able to play some good defense, potentially around this 12 EMA in the next few days, right? It's very possible that we just use this horizontal support at this point, right? And our moving averages to level out and potentially get another little run to the upside. We're going to take this one day at a time for sure. But even if we do pull back further, guys, tons of space for even weekly consolidation at this point, right? Weekly consolidation, anything above 431 is just going to be a weekly higher low for potential further upside, right? So tons of space, guys. No need to get nervous right away at all. QQQ, same principle, right? So QQQ, anything above 363.90-ish, right? 363 right here. Let's call it 364 flat is just going to be a daily higher low. Obviously, with such a negative day and such hard momentum to the downside, it begs the question, well, how far are the bears going to be able to push it? And the further that they push it, they open the door for either a tightening range potential or, in the worst case scenario, a daily downtrend. And a loss of the daily downtrend would, a gain for the bears of a daily downtrend would open the door for further weekly consolidation. It's a good thing, however, that we have tons of space. Anything above 357 all the way down here is just going to be a weekly higher low for consolidation potentially, right? So tons of space for the bulls to work with here, but now they definitely have to play defense. It has to be seen how willing are the bulls to save this rally, right? Not going to look on the monthly yet because we're not close to the monthly close. Still have a week of trading yet, but it would make sense even on the monthly if we do get a tiny bit of pullback on the longer time frames here. But we're going to take it one day at a time. We still haven't lost the EMA 12. We closed right at it today pretty much, right? So tons of space still. The bulls can save this by either putting in a nice green day tomorrow and potentially going back up to the highs here, or at the worst case scenario for the bulls here, we want to be setting a potential tightening range and really tightening up at the top end of this move here. That would also be healthy. But obviously if we pull back too much, if we give back too much of these gains, it opens the door for a lower high and a potential daily downtrend. So those are the things that I'm looking out at. But as of now, guys, no real red flags. We need more data to figure out if this move has finally topped out or if we can potentially still recover and putting in new highs here. Obviously, we're at resistance area right now. Which resistance? We're at the all-time high area of resistance, right? So all the way up here is pretty much what we're working with, guys. So no need to panic just yet. Just want to get that across. Markets still looking fairly healthy, especially since we had some decent rotation here. That is what I like to see. At least it's not money leaving the market. It's just money rotating, right, out of our high flyers and into some more value plays. Now, financials, great job by financials. Resistance is up here, $36 to $37, this whole area right here. Financials with a great day, guys. Still in a massive daily uptrend right here. So looking very, very healthy as a whole. Anything above 34.20 on a pullback is just for a higher low. No red flags at all on financials. I do think that they will be able to continue to push higher. Obviously, we are in a massive weekly uptrend at this point. No signs of the bulls wanting to slow down, especially with today's daily close. If we continue to get some sell-off in technology names, very possible that money keeps rotating into financials and healthcare. So this chart to me looks very healthy, right? One of the biggest players, that I'm looking into is still Charles Schwab, right? Still some area up here for Schwab to come into the 70 zone, right? Which is pretty much where we dropped during the whole banking crisis. If you look at XLF, we're almost getting back to where we dropped from the banking crisis earlier in March. Some very healthy gains from financials as a whole. Now, XLV Healthcare, beautiful, beautiful day. This is what we were asking for yesterday, pretty much on yesterday's stream. I needed the bulls to really push into the higher areas here, and they have finally done it, right? So we are now potentially finally breaking our tightening range to the upside, right? And what happens, I'll keep bringing up this name because it's the most fresh name example that I can think of. Look at Costco, tightening range as well for a very long time, and then we break it to the upside and kind of don't look back. I am potentially looking for the same on healthcare, right? So now we do have a break to the upside of our tightening range, guys. This is very, very notable. It has to jump out to you, right? This is a break of the tightening range to the upside. Now we are well above on the weekly time frame here, above our moving averages, looking very healthy, right? So now the bulls have kind of created this nice little daily push. As soon as this move does top out here, we have tons of space to set a daily higher low, potentially using this horizontal support now to bounce and break higher, right? So looking forward to see a lot of health names catch up. We had some great days on AbbVie right here, right? So you can see AbbVie really curling, and now we get the break above on AbbVie on the weekly that looks something like this. And also Johnson & Johnson with some beautiful earnings, completely turning this around, right? Was used to be a tightening range, and now we're kind of breaking above, especially if we close high with tomorrow. So great day on earnings. So a couple of the healthcare names, guys, turning it around for the markets, breaking out of their tightening ranges and looking for some potential further upside. IWM didn't have too bad of a day considering how negative financials were, negative technology was, but that's because they do have high exposure to financials, right? Almost 20% of this ETF are smaller cap financials. So IWM with a fairly decent day here, anything above 190.42 is still just going to be a daily higher low for just continuation of the uptrend. No red flags yet. Only thing that I have to mention is that we are in our resistance area, so it's normal that we are getting some little pullback in this area here. So what you want to see the bulls do is kind of recapture their strength and potentially push through this resistance area, right? On the weekly, still looking quite healthy here, especially if we close relatively close to these levels. Still in a weekly uptrend. So much space, guys, to get a weekly pullback even for future upside, right? So doesn't need to be excessively quick. Growth names have been having some decent outperformance in the last 3 weeks, but now it is time for them to take a slight breather, right? So a lot of space, no red flags. Just keep an eye, guys, on this daily uptrend. Obviously, if we come all the way down here, same thing with QQQ, open up the doors for either a tightening range or a potential loss of the daily uptrend, which would send us for weekly consolidation. But we're taking this one day at a time, still a decently healthy chart, right? It's just at resistance. Dow Jones names, another beautiful day of outperformance by our value names, which you can see highlighted here, right? Most of all our value names have been doing quite well. So it's no surprise that the Dow Jones is pushing higher at this point. Dow Jones now only 4.5% from the all-time highs, right? So we did break through this inverse head and shoulders pattern that I've been talking about for about 5 weeks now at this point, right? And we're now significantly above that. So great job by the bulls. I do want to see them close this week in a bullish fashion. So tomorrow, need to get at least a positive or flat day and really keep this candle as bullish as possible if you want to see continuation. They are doing a great job. They've set up now the weekly trend change, right? So now it is a beautiful confirmed weekly uptrend. Love to see it. Very healthy. No red flags at all in this chart. The worst that can happen, in my opinion, is just going to be your breakout, retest of this potential zone, and a potential push higher, right? So next week, we have a very big week with a lot of technology earnings. And if technology keeps getting beat down, there may be some further rotation into your value names, right? Which would only push this chart higher. The same thing happened last October when we had some bit of inflation worries come back up. You can see that value had some net outperformance. If I bring up QQQ around the same period, right? QQQ around the same period had pretty much nothing going on for it in October, right? With some more inflation fears. At that point, the value names just really took over in a large fashion. So could this potentially be the same, whereby if we get some further technology crush here, and in 2-3 weeks when we get a potential rate decision and the inflation numbers, well, would that be value's time to shine over the next month or so? Very possible. That's what I'm looking out for, looking onto a lot of names that are potentially able to run significantly here, right? A lot of beaten down names. I'll bring them back up again. These are just the ones that come to the top of my head. Estee Lauder, Dollar General, right? You have some stocks like Nike, which have been kept down, right? So a lot of names that are still down significantly off the all-time highs. And these are just the ones that are off like 30% plus, but there are some that are still off the tops about 15, 20% that do have some fairly healthy charts. So keep an eye on the value names, right? Bitcoin doing absolutely nothing again, right? Still trapped in this range. Don't want to talk about it too much. This is still our weekly consolidation, guys. Need to kind of hold the support level though, right? You really need to see them hold above 29.5 right here. Between 30 and 29.5 is your pretty much area of support here that's been acting as support for a better part over the last month and a bit, right? So need to see the bulls hold this area, but it's very possible, guys, with the technology pullback and the risk on asset pullback that we're currently having, it's very possible that we continue to pull back. So watch out. If we do break the support, your next line of support is down here at the 12 EMA, roughly 28,700-ish, right? But as of now, nothing notable happening in crypto at all. And obviously to the upside, we do have to break and close above 31.7. So looking into Apple now at this point, well, Apple with a pretty red day as well, 1% down, right? So what are we looking for on Apple? Tons of space, guys, 186.80 for the daily higher low, right? So that's what we're looking for, looking to set a daily higher low. Anything above here will do it. So tons of space for the bulls to work with here. What you don't want to see is a hard pullback like this. It opens the door for either a tightening range, right? Or worst case scenario, loss of the daily uptrend. If we lose the daily uptrend, we go to the weekly, and the weekly could potentially bring us down a bit further for some weekly consolidation. Haven't had 2 negative weeks in a row for quite some time on Apple, right? So I'm talking about weeks like this, right? Haven't had that type of price action for a while. But if we do pull back on the weekly, right, we have been setting weekly higher lows so often recently, right? So at this point, guys, my sweet spot for Apple, if we do pull back, is 175 to the 170 area if we do pull back there, but we're still taking it one day at a time. The bulls have not even lost the 12 EMA, so let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Just looking for a daily higher low, and when that'll be set, we'll see how deep do the bears cut into this move, and that gives us the possibility of either a tightening range or potential move down like that. But if we stay above here like this, it's very possible that we just chill around here for a bit and continue to break higher. So keep an eye on your 12 EMA, very important. AMD. AMD, also a very negative day, guys. AMD down in the last 2 days, almost 10%, right? So very, very big pullbacks on AMD. At this point, guys, we have pretty much lost the daily move, right? So we're kind of double bottoming here at our lows of roughly 109.50, right? 109.50 is the area to watch. Very, very close. If tomorrow's red again, we will lose the daily higher lows. And that just really opens the door at that point for potential daily downtrend to be restarting. And then we'd be looking at the weekly. The weekly also on AMD, gotta be careful here, guys. If we do push through these lows here, especially on the weekly, if you push through 107, which is the next line in the sand level, we end up in a weekly downtrend, right? Weekly downtrend. At that point, if it's in a weekly downtrend, we're just looking for monthly higher lows compared to our lows down here, right? So big moves by AMD recently to the upside, but over the last 2 months, it's been struggling to hold up the gains. Sweet spot area for me on AMD is obviously down here between the 105 to 100 area. I'm getting pretty excited. If it does pull back there, it's going to open the door for me to start a larger position, right? So that is it pretty much for AMD. Just keep an eye, guys. If tomorrow is red and we pull back here, really watch the 107 area, right? If we really pull back, opens up for when we get a bounce, opens up the door for a daily downtrend. At that point, if we get a daily downtrend like this, it will also be a weekly downtrend, and those sometimes take a bit more time to open up, but you do have decent support down here. Now, let's look at Amazon. Amazon, right? Big red day as well, almost 4% down on Amazon, right? So really don't like to see this. At this point, guys, you could argue that this is indeed a loss of the daily uptrend, right? We're not able to push higher off of this. Daily higher low was set pretty much here. So at this point, guys, it is pretty much a daily downtrend on Amazon, right? Not the prettiest daily downtrend, but a daily downtrend nonetheless. Your weekly higher low remains pretty much set all the way down here, right, at 125.87. So you don't really want to lose this area if you're Amazon bulls. If we do lose it, however, my target area that I'm looking for here is below 120, right? So 118 all the way to the 115 area for potential weekly pullback. I think it's a very good level for Amazon. If we do pull back there, I will not be opposed to right options in that level, right? The line in the sand, guys, that lets me believe if we lose this level, we may be coming down further into here, is definitely 125.90, 126, right? Just below 126 right here. Key level that you don't want to lose. But as of now, guys, the bulls have to play defense on these names. We've now lost the 12 EMA, right? So it remains to be seen tomorrow what will happen. Tomorrow and next week is going to be huge, right? We do have earnings for Amazon next week. So in my opinion, once again, kind of like on Tesla, for earnings, we're either going to get a break of these highs, or we're going to be pretty much coming down and breaking these lows into further consolidation, which would be at that point weekly consolidation as well, right? So very, very healthy, guys. Don't get it twisted, okay? Don't want to seem too bearish here, but we have run a lot, right? And these charts can get somewhat of a decent pullback, even on a monthly basis. There's so much space to even set monthly higher lows. The bull market is here. Don't get worried about it, but it's normal that after so much gains, right? If earnings do not come and meet expectations, it's normal that the bears have an opportunity to run hard the other way. So just keep an eye out on your 126 level. Going to be a very, very important level. The more that we pull back into it here, more opens the door for some more weekly consolidation, right? But as of now, the bulls still do have an opportunity to save this move by doing something like this, right? So all is not lost. but definitely not looking the most optimistic on Amazon. We do get severe days of pullback like this. You've seen that the bulls have been able to save it in the past, but now we are kind of closing under the 12 EMA here, whereas previously we have been able to hold it this whole time. So the bulls need to start putting in some stops. Google, same concept, right? So now we're kind of smashing through our zone of previous support here, this whole area of support, which was this area of resistance. Key level, guys. When you get under this, right, you're going to start to use it as resistance. So the only negative thing on Google is now that we've pulled back a lot from this most recent bull move up, right? So we were looking for the bulls to set a higher low and move higher. But now what's happened is they have come a bit too far for my liking, right? Now coming at the low today, almost off 78% of this move up, which is what our Fibonacci shows us, right? So when the bears take this much back move from the bulls, it opens the door to either a tightening range or it opens the door for a daily downtrend. Daily downtrend is obviously the worst case scenario. The best case scenario now is going to be just a tightening range, right? But when you pull back so much, it's very hard to do this, to just V-shape. That's why I bring up those two scenarios, right? So key line in the sand level for Google here is going to be 116. Definitely need to hold the 116 area here, okay? On the weekly, what is it going to look like if we lose this? Well, number one, if we close the week like this, sets a big supply zone right here, right? Which kind of begs the question whether or not we are going to continue the move to the downside. On the weekly, if we start losing it like this, could also be setting up for the weekly downtrend, right? We tried to push higher. We were not able to do that. So what does it look like on the monthly too? Monthly, healthy, just healthy monthly pullback, right? Same thing as our previous charts. We are still healthy on the higher time frames, but definitely cooling off decently. We really have some decent levels to look after here. If we do start pulling back even further and set a daily downtrend for further weekly consolidation, my optimal area for Google for me, guys, 110 to about 105 is going to be the sweet spot that I'm looking at to pick up more Google personally. Meta also big red day, just like the rest of our tech, right? Very rare that Meta has had a 4% day in this entire run up, right? You would have to pretty much go back to February, the 8th of February, to have a minus 4% day on Meta. So haven't been happening in the past. And look, 12 EMA has been so crucial lately, and we are at the potential of losing this. So tomorrow and Monday, very important days for Meta. Meta, same thing, right? What happened here? Potential loss of the daily uptrend. We were not able to push higher. This was our daily higher low. We have now lost the series of higher highs and higher lows, right? The daily, the higher low has now been smashed to the downside. So it opens up the possibility for a daily downtrend. If we do get a daily downtrend, guys, where are we looking for weekly consolidation? Well, we'll pretty much be looking down here, anything above 260. So tons of space for the bears to put in a few weeks of pullback, cool off these RSIs potentially here, and still be set up nicely for weekly recovery, right? But obviously we've been running into this resistance here. It's the one that I've been calling for a long time, guys. This shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. This was the gap fill area. So it's normal that once we've fulfilled the prophecy, as I like to call it, the gap fill, right? It's now normal that we do pull back a little. Meta obviously getting hit hard off of the rest of technology, and Netflix and Tesla earnings definitely acting as a catalyst for bears to absolutely run hard with it, and nobody will ask any questions at all, right? So keep an eye out here on your daily time frames here, okay, guys? Very important. If we lose the 12 EMA here, the further we pull back, the more it opens up the door to set a lower high like this and a daily downtrend. The best chance the bulls have at this point is potentially getting a save and set a tightening range. But at this point, guys, it's going to be very tough to V-shape this, especially if we are losing our area here. Our next area of support is obviously down here at 287.5, roughly in this whole area here. Right? So keep an eye out on that for Meta, but further downside is definitely not out of the question. Microsoft, same thing, right, guys? So Microsoft, so that's the problem when you set the lower highs, right? You set the higher lows, excuse me, and then you pull back hard all the way into them right away, it makes such an engulfing move, guys. So Microsoft as well. Look at this weekly candle, not looking too good. So rejecting currently from our, we were past all-time highs, but now we're kind of back under that area. So once again, this area is now acting as resistance. If Microsoft can't save this tomorrow, it's not going to look good on the weekly time frame for them, especially with this candle formation, right? Yes, anything above currently 326 is just going to be a weekly higher low for potential further bull continuation, but very, very ugly week in terms of pullback for sure, right? Microsoft pullback here from the high over 5.5%, right? So very, very ugly day for Microsoft, if I do say so myself, right? But we have a slight chance to save this here. 342.62 is your higher low, right? So keep an eye, guys. 12 EMA and the 343 level. If we lose that, then it opens up the possibility to set a potential daily downtrend. So we're going to look at this, all these tech stocks, guys. The next week is crucial. We have earnings next week on Microsoft as well. So I will be going very, very light, especially with this big tech pullback and how the market reacted to Tesla and Netflix earnings, which in my opinion were not that bad at all, but they just chose to run with it, right? And this is how you know that they're comfortable taking a lot of money off the table, off of these stocks that have ran a lot when there's even the slightest bit of bad news that kind of puts the narrative into question of whether or not they've run too much, right? So keep an eye, 12 EMA. The bulls are still in control here of the daily chart until we lose this level and lose the 12 EMA. And even on the weekly, a lot of space to work with before we have to start to question the weekly uptrend as well, right? But even on the monthly, right? Monthly, even if we do get a weekly extended down move, guys, so much space to set monthly higher lows. So over the next month, if we do get some further pullback in technology, there's so much space, guys. There's just so much space for the bulls to work with. They control the higher time frames. I'm still bullish over all this market, except for we haven't seen weekly consolidation and weekly downtrends potentially in months at this point, since December, right? So it's obviously going to be a surprise when it does happen, but it is to be expected. This is just normal market movement here. So keep an eye out for these key levels, 342 on Microsoft right here. And then obviously we have further supports down here, but the more we pull back, the best we can do, like I said, is tightening range and accumulation and bull break. The worst that can happen is set a daily downtrend. It's okay. Microsoft set a daily downtrend in the past, and you saw the bears weren't able to follow through. Could we get something of the same and bears are not able to follow through? Very, very possible. That's why we take these things one thing at a time. Next week, earnings going to be crucial across everything. Netflix, absolutely same thing, pretty much as the rest of our tech names here, right? So complete destruction on Netflix from earning, right? Minus 8.41%, almost as bad as Tesla. And now what we're looking for here, guys, is on the weekly is the most important time frame for me. Kind of like Microsoft, very ugly weekly candle, but the weekly higher low is all the way down here at 413, right? 413, which is going to kind of line up with your moving average. So decent amount of weekly support down here if we do continue to pull back for the weekly higher low, right? But not looking that good for the bulls, even on the monthly. Very, very healthy pullback can be had at this point. We can go all the way pretty much to the 370s, right? And still be set up nicely for a monthly higher low and further continuation. But at this point, we take things one day at a time. Obviously, at this point, guys, the daily uptrend is in question. We are right at it, right? So 433, very, very, very important level for Netflix to hold the 433 level. If we do break it, it just opens up the door for daily downtrend and more continuation or something like this, daily downtrend, right? So keep an eye out for that. The next days and next week is crucial for big tech. We are going to see if the rest of big tech can save these daily moves or if we are going into weekly extended consolidation. Very important. I'll be talking a lot about this over our next few streams, okay? So keep an eye out on this level for the daily, but if we do lose it, guys, then it just gives us more probabilities that a daily downtrend is in motion, and at that point, you look to the weekly, and obviously, as I've said, the weekly, you're looking at support down here, roughly at 412 before losing the weekly uptrend, but higher time frame bulls are in full control. It's just we're getting some significant pullback, but, we were overbought, so if anything, it's allowing us to cool off some of these higher time frames that have been overbought for quite some time now, right? So Netflix still with a lot of cushion. That's the moral of the video today. If I want you guys to remember one thing, we still have so much cushion to work with here. NVIDIA, same thing, right? So NVIDIA, just watch out. We do have key support right here, okay, on the daily chart. At this point, guys, we are still in search of a daily higher low. Daily higher low, anything above 418 is just going to be a daily higher low. So tons of space for the bulls. Still have not lost the 12 EMA. Even with a disaster of a day today on NVIDIA, we are still in a potential daily uptrend, right? We can save this move over the next few days, but just like our other stocks, next few days, next week with big tech earnings is going to be crucial if we are going to hold these levels. The further we pull back into this level here opens up the door for tightening range, like I said again, or daily downtrend. We take these things one thing at a time. When we know how much they pull back, this is where I can say, if we pull back this much, I can say, ooh, the best we can get is a tightening range, but the worst we can get is a daily downtrend. But I definitely won't be looking for a V shape, right? So that's when you have to adjust your trading style, knowing the potential and the probabilities of what's going to happen. And if you're writing options, that's when you start getting a bit more passive with it, right? And a bit more conservative with your strikes, especially if you're expecting the potential of daily downtrends forming, right? So NVIDIA, still healthy. Anything above here, just a daily higher low. Let's take it one day at a time. Even on the weekly, a lot of space. Anything above 402 is just going to be a weekly higher low for potential further upside here. And lastly, Tesla. Tesla. What are we going to do with Tesla? Well, we did lose the 12 EMA in a significant fashion here, which is not very healthy for the bulls, all the way down to the 26. Have not tagged the 26 EMA since the $165 mark down here when we actually regained these moving averages to begin with, right? Have not really tagged these EMAs much. So is this going to be potentially some further consolidation into this area? Only time will tell, guys. But one thing's for sure, at this point, weekly consolidation with this vast magnitude of a move is all but confirmed. Even in the after hours, Tesla dropping even more all the way down to 260, right? So very significant move to the downside. The daily uptrend at this point is now lost. If bulls want to regain it, they'll have to regain it the hard way, right? But definitely we have lost the higher lows, which are pretty much we're at 267. Lost those, completely blew past that target today. So it does open up the possibility here for a daily downtrend. As of now, this is just a daily downswing. We would need to set the daily downtrend to really confirm it, just like that higher, lower highs, lower lows, right? So if the pullback does continue, what are we looking at? This is weekly consolidation confirmed at this point. We are looking at higher lows, anything above 241. Weekly MA down here, horizontal support down here. That is going to be my next target for Tesla. Need to hold 241 to keep this move alive, right? The further we pull back into it, let's just put the fib on it, right? So we're already down 618, right? So this is the golden area. If we drop any further, what happens is the likely scenario becomes a tightening range at best, or a weekly downtrend at worst, right? Which would kind of open up, if this happens, for maybe a weekly head and shoulders. So Tesla definitely has its work cut out for it here over the next week to tell us where it wants to go. Sweet spot for me on Tesla, 230 all the way down to 210. Obviously a fair bit away from current share price, but that is just the sweet spot for me, the kind of load the boat area for me on Tesla. So always be patient, let things come to you at that point, right? So at this point on the daily, taking it one day at a time, the bulls are, the bears are pretty much exhausted here on the 1 hour, right? So we have the 1 hour RSI is crushed. The 4 hour RSI is getting hold. No bull support whatsoever all day today, completely cooling off all those time frames, even cooling off the daily RSI in a massive fashion, right? So Tesla, very important level here down at 241. Need to see the bull's reaction. When we do get a bounce, how high is the bounce? If the bounce is high, the best we can expect is a tightening range or a recapture of the daily uptrend. But if the bounce is shallow and then we start pulling back, then you really open up the door for daily downtrend, and you're looking really here at the weekly level. So let's take this one day at a time. Not looking good for the bulls, but this is only 1 day of data. need to see how we react over the next few days. And especially next week, guys, is so key with the rest of big tech. It will really give us an indication of whether or not we are going into extended weekly consolidation. So a few more weeks, right, which would be able to allow us to set monthly higher lows with potentially July and the August candle setting like this, right? Or if this is just a temporary move to the downside and bulls want to save it. So that is pretty much the moral of the story, guys, even on QQQ, right? I'll reiterate, okay? We've run a lot on the monthly. Now, if July closes like this, if we keep getting, if next week is bad for tech, what's going to happen is your candle, we're going to get a nice doji here, which could also send us, especially with August, next month, there is our rate hike. And there's also potential inflation concerns, right? So you have to keep an eye on those two concerns, okay? Because those two concerns coupled with this, if we close bad on this month and next month also we get some bad data, right? Technology could come in here for a, this month and next month, a little 2-month downswing into here for setting monthly higher lows. And this chart would look the same on most of big tech, right? Meta, NVIDIA, Microsoft, Apple, at some point, we're going to be due for monthly consolidation. It's going to happen. And these 2 months, obviously, the way things are playing out now, it has to light something up in your mind, right? It could play out to where the monthly consolidation is happening as the rest of our sectors, XLF and XLV, are allowed to run, and our Dow Jones as well, right? Are these names potentially going to have some outperformance over the next couple months while technology gets a much needed pullback? That is the narrative that I'm currently eyeing closely. At least we're catching it soon, guys. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say for the video. Bit of a long one today, I know, but I really wanted to kind of reassure you guys and give you guys some good levels and some good indication of what could happen with big tech, because I know a lot of you guys hold big tech. So with that being said, guys, I don't want to sound too bearish here. I'm not. We just take things one thing at a time. The longer time frame bulls are in control, but it would not surprise me if we're due for extended consolidation here. Wouldn't surprise me, right? But it also wouldn't surprise me if we go for new 52-week highs and just reverse this entire move and people buy the dip, right? But extended consolidation has been warranted for quite some time now, so it should not be surprising if we do indeed get it. If anything, it's healthy, especially if we continue to get rotation. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, consider giving me a like, consider subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate you guys. I hope everybody was okay today. I know on big red days, people get a bit nervous, a bit anxious. So hopefully I was able to calm a bit of those fears and give you guys a bit of direction. So with all that being said, have a great night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow after the close for another beautiful day on Friday. So take care, guys, and peace.